talking about SNL, the history, the mysteries, and all the hot impressions in between, breaking down all the numbers as well. In your favorite sketches with special guests, it's on the Saturday Night Network.
Yes, that is right. Welcome, everybody, on into the Saturday Night Network for the Roundtable of all Roundtables, talking about SNL50, the anniversary special that aired just 2 days ago, and breaking down all of the greatest moments from the biggest night in SNL history. My name is Jon Schneider from the Saturday Night Network. So excited to be back on the podcast with you to finally talk about this amazing occasion that we all just witnessed this past weekend. I have so many stories to tell and so much to discuss. We are, of course, here as a presentation of LateNighter.com, and we have assembled an all-star panel, just like SNL did, to talk about this special. So first up, one of the veterans at SNL podcasting, it is my man, Rich Tackenberg is back. Rich, how are you?
I am so good. There's so much to talk about thinking about SNL through the years, but just start tonight. I just want to say I vividly remember doing the very first podcast with you years ago, joking about how we might do the 50th anniversary special. And I think we both laughed, and it's amazing to be here tonight, fulfilling that dream from all those years ago. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a very humbling experience, because when you're so right, when we started podcasting together, Rich, in season 46, you were one of the first people that ever came on this show. And I always felt like everything we were doing was a journey towards this weekend. So the idea that we are here now talking about it, let alone the fact that I got to be just a small part of what went on this weekend, which of course I'll talk about throughout the week, is just the most humbling experience. And it's because of all of you here who have joined us on the show, all of the listeners, everyone who's been a part of this network for the last few years. So I love and appreciate you all. And I'm sure we will have a lot of fun talking about everything from this weekend. Of course, joining us as well as the incredible Amanda Mitchell. Amanda, how are you?
Jon, I feel like I saw you just yesterday. I should have seen you. I was going to see you.
Yeah, but
it was my fault. But still, I saw you on Sunday. We were together in person. We have photo evidence. It happened.
Yes, it was great to see you.
Very exciting. I'm thrilled to be here. I remember getting a little DM from this little man 4 years ago, not 4 years ago and 2 apartments ago. I did not expect that I would be sitting here talking about this night right here. And being considered an all-star. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Well, you absolutely are. People love
you guys.
From you. So I'm so excited to hear your thoughts on the show.
Very exciting.
And joining us as well, usually from Canada, my Canadian friend, but stuck in New York City because of all the New York Northeast weather that's been going on. But I'm happy she still made it. Kirstin Rajala is here. Kirstin, how are you?
I'm fantastic. And I was at that viewing party on Sunday, and it was amazing. We got to see Jon live in his tux. We got to yell and scream in a bar in New York, and a few other members of the pod, TJ, some patron members. It was incredible. And that was the way to do it. I'd stuck around in Toronto. I am still here. I'll be stuck in New York. I'm still here. I'll be back in Toronto tomorrow. But I think that made it that much more special. We were a block away from the studio, and there were barricades on the street, and there were celebrities everywhere, and there was energy in the air, and to be so close to it just felt like the way to do it. And Rich, I'm sorry you weren't able to join us.
I meant to ask the three of you, did you send my invite to my Gmail account, or was it? I didn't receive.
I sent it via pigeon.
We put Rich in Studio 8G instead of Studio 8H.
That's
actually
right.
Yeah.
I was with Lovitz and American Girl. I missed you guys. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, enough about us. There's plenty of time to talk about that. Let's talk about this special, which was 50 years in the making. They have done specials before, but as far as anniversary specials are concerned, you have to go back to the 15th anniversary, the first time they ever did anything like this. they did it at the 25th. And then 10 years ago, they did it at the 40th. And I've talked about many times on the show about how the 40th inspired me to go back and watch old episodes of the show and feel like I completely understood what I was watching. And if the 50th this time didn't inspire you to go back and watch old episodes, that would be crazy to me, because this was, as far as new material is concerned, very surprisingly, almost all new material this time. That will be definitely one of the major headlines that we walk away from, is that every anniversary special, Rich, has felt a little bit different. It did feel like the approach to the 50th felt like none of the other specials. They tried to do something here maybe that they didn't do before. So let's get some overall thoughts about how you feel like this special will be remembered. Rich,
you start with me. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these specials are so impossible to do. I mean, kudos to them, because you're trying to please so many different audiences, but but at a minimum, you're trying to please us, the hardcore fans, and you're also trying to please the casual viewer for whom they are hoping is going to watch on NBC on Sunday night, or repeats on Peacock, or clips on YouTube, who are not the fans like us. And that's a very hard balancing act. And I would say, while of course I'll have my nitpicks about the 3.5 hours, overall, I thought they did an incredible job. I think what I will say, and I'm interested to hear what everyone else says, I think this special will be remembered not for the 3.5 hour block. I think this will be the first anniversary special in 50 years that will be remembered for the clips on YouTube as moments, not as a whole. And I think there's a lot of, when you only choose what you think are your favorite moments, then this is just a murderer's row. So I think it will be, of course people will complain. People will always complain. It's impossible. They did this live. But I thought for what the expectations were, I thought they hit it out of the ballpark, and I was just smiling ear to ear for 3.5 hours.
Amanda, what about you? What were your overall expectations for the show coming into it? Do you feel like they did a good job with what you saw, and what are some major takeaways from you?
I feel like often when I get, a reunion special, something that's supposed to be have waves of what was, and remind us of like, oh, like we've done this for so long. Like, my expectations are always kind of low. And I think I deliberately didn't watch the 40th because I'm in the middle of reading live from New York right now. So like I was like trying to basically to catch up in the timeline to hear that book it's 800 pages. I was like, and I have a job. I carry it around. I carry it around in my bag. My back hurts all the time. But like I think my bar wasn't low. But I just was like, it's going to be a fun evening. I like the people they have in the lineup. That's going to be great. Thank you for exceeding that more than I needed. I appreciated it. And I loved it because it was deeply nostalgic in a way that it needed to be, but also, and I'm going to touch on this in a bit, but like, it felt like an acknowledgement, like Rich said, of the YouTube era, but like of the YouTube era of SNL, like of the fact that this is no longer a television show. This is a multimedia experience, and it exists in different forms. It exists on YouTube. It exists clipped down onto TikTok. It exists in different realms, and that's what I came away feeling like this show. It like, again, I'm going to touch on this deeper on because I'm going to go in my deep mental like media mindset. But like this episode was so beautiful because it was a remember all we've been doing this. We've been good at this for so long. You might have seen this cute little new thing on TikTok like recently, but we've been here. We've been doing these things. We've been creating content that people wanted to return to over and over and over again. And it just felt like it was a triumph. And I was happy. And I was like, yes, there were weak moments. It ran way over time. I was very tired by the end. Even rewatching it the second time, I was like, guys, okay.
By the way, I was tired, and I'm 3.5 hours behind you guys. I have no idea how you made it.
I got home at 1 a.m. after the party on Sunday.
It was a long
Like,
day, but
it was a
but it was
long day.
but it's like
But
once in a lifetime for all of this.
yeah, but I think that, like, yes, was the Steve Martin line about front loading in the monologue a little bit of foreshadowing? Absolutely. Absolutely. But I think that in general, I would walk away saying that this was not even just a signal of what was, but it's truly like, this is the SNL of the future. Get used to it. Kind of.
Interesting. That's a good
Yeah.
that's a good takeaway. Kirsten, how do you feel about what Rich and Amanda just said, and also your overall thoughts on the special?
I could have watched it for 2 hours longer. You never forget how tired you are. You always forget how amazing it was. And I do go to bed early. For me, this was comedy palooza. It was the comedy Super Bowl. It was the comedy Olympics. And I would take more of this. I think there's a lot of pressure that they put on themselves to do so much to, celebrate the 50 years. We didn't want to see, as much as we love them, some of the original sketches, because we've seen a lot of those in these anniversary episodes. So including a lot of newer stuff with a nod to some of the old stuff and some of the original cast or earlier cast members is great. As someone who works in experiences, what I love about these is the kind of one-time magic potions that they create. You've got Miley and Brittany Howard singing a Sinead O'Connor song. You've got Leslie beside Tracy, beside Eddie, who's playing Tracy. Like, this is the stuff that is one-off that these specials are fantastic at. That is so much of the magic for me. Meryl Freaking Streep showing up, who's not been on the show. Is it because she's palling around with Martin Short? I don't care. I'll take more. That was, to me, the cameo of the night, and I absolutely loved it. I think some of the things that people are going to remember from this are, Andy Samberg is a national treasure. Adam Sandler has a heart of gold. And, as goofy as he is, he can be so heartfelt and touching and genuine and so empathetic and sincere with some of the songwriting he does. Actually, no, some is right. Some of it's about fart jokes. I think about, 2007, Christopher Hitchens writing that women aren't funny. Fuck that guy. May he rest in peace.
Who is
Sorry,
that?
but fuck that guy. Christopher Hitchens, Vanity
Christopher
Fair article,
Hitchens,
2007.
they wrote it in 2007
Women
that
aren't
women
funny.
aren't
He
funny.
wrote an article about it. So I think of that at times like this when it's so ridiculous that he got airtime for that. So fuck
Should put
that
him in
guy.
the in memoriam.
That's right. They should.
Yeah.
So overall, I think, it's almost as if they had a checklist with all of the names of all the people that had to be incorporated somehow. And I think they did a damn good job incorporating them, whether it was in the music, whether it was by a mention, whether it was Tina and Amy's audience interaction, whether they were in a sketch, whether they introduced something. That was a lot of people to please. I'm sure working that guest list made some enemies. So from what I saw, and as someone who organizes things, hats off to them, because that was a formidable task. And I felt like I had the buffet platter of SNL greatness to dine from.
Okay. I love your takes, by the way. This is what I'll say. I'm living my absolute dream. This was one of the greatest nights ever. I want to start with the gripes that I have, so I'll get them out of the way. And then we can talk about all the good things. Number one is that SNL50, I still believe, is the most perfect special that will ever happen for the show. And I realized that watching it, and how great they put that together 10 years ago, where they truly covered the entire scope of the 40 years at the time by doing sketches like Bassomatic with Danny and Lorraine, then doing Celebrity Jeopardy, representing that 90s era. You had Wayne's World as well with the that late 80s cast. You had the Californians, whether you like it or not, at least that represented that era that just passed, that everyone was felt that they loved. Clip packages, a lot of great moments. For me, it was just as absolutely perfect as it gets. This was very different because the majority of the special was from the millennium on. And that may not have been their fault because, Dana Carvey, unfortunately, couldn't make it to the show. And when you don't have Dana, it's really hard to do something with that second golden era cast, because he's sort of the linchpin that's left with Phil and Jen not being around anymore.
Right.
You can't do Hans and Franz. You can't do Wayne's World. So you do have Mike Myers that you got in something, but that's, the best that you probably can do. And then with the 70s cast, what is really interesting, obviously they announced that Jane and Chevy were going to be there and were headliners for the show, and they didn't participate, which is totally fine. I'm just happy to see them, but we just have to be thankful for what we got. We got a little bit of Garrett, we got a lot of Lorraine, which was really nice. But basically, up until the 2000s, they were mostly covered in the bit of clip packages that we got. So that, if you're trying to have the 50 years be represented in the special, I don't know that they did that on Sunday night. But saying all of that, I grew up on the show in the era that they absolutely covered like crazy on Sunday night. So for me personally, it was a dream, because a lot of the sketches that they brought back were sketches that I loved, that I haven't seen since I was a teenager watching all these sketches with my friends. And to see the people that they got in these sketches was like watching the Avengers every 5 minutes. It was just like a different Avengers movie. And that was so cool, just to get to see like the idea that we can have a full episode of SNL featuring cast members from the entire history of the show was sort of my dream for the 50th season. I always thought, like, when I started watching SNL, like one day in season 50, they're going to have a current cast, but they're just going to shove in a bunch of old people that are excited to get back at the show and do old sketches. And they haven't really done that in 50. They sort of did it with Dana and Andy, at the beginning of the year a little bit. But for the most part, this was my dream show for the 50th. So, there are naturally things that I totally understand that you, and I'm so glad we have a live chat here tonight. There's totally things that I understand that people won't love about the special in the long run, but overall, this was so much fun. I'm so grateful for what we got and for everyone that was there. We can obviously talk about the people that weren't, and I'm sure that, that'll come up at some point. But for everybody who was there, I think the amount of people that they included in this special was probably the most amount of people that have ever had roles in a singular special or episode of Saturday Night Live. So the amount of contracts that they did to sign up people for this, they just got as many people as they could. I thought that this was an absolute blast. And Rich, I'll always remember, and I'm going to go back to this line, that for those who don't know, I was introduced to Rich Tackenberg as a podcast listener when he was, doing podcasts when I was just watching SNL as a fan. And one of the things he always said that stuck with me was SNL is the party that you are invited to at home. And Rich, This was the greatest party ever to get to watch this. So for you, did you feel that as well?
Absolutely. And here's what I also love the 40th. I'm going to respectfully disagree with you a little bit. I like the 50th better, because I think on the 40th, you've got Dan Aykroyd redoing a sketch almost word for word the way he did it, at that time, 40 years earlier. You have Emma Stone doing Rosanna Dana, which is, a nice nod. I feel like the 40th was a great look back. The 50th was a celebration of the power of Saturday Night Live. It didn't feel to me like it was it wasn't a funeral where we're reading about, all the great moments. It wasn't a goodbye. It wasn't a look at how great we used to be. It was look at how 1 + 2 + 3 plus 50 equals the power of 3.5 hours of live explosive comedy, music, stars, surprises, fan fulfillment. And so to me, I liked this direction where it was less about, hey, let's make sure we capture an old sketch from each episode, and more grab as many vibrant people as we can, even if that vibrant is, Bill Murray from season 2 doing a Weekend Update piece. Just the power of look at what we can still do because of this institutional experience that we collectively had.
I completely agree with you. That it's a very good point. And they, they probably should. I mean, this is probably, I remember, I forget which alumni was talking about this, but they said like, what was the 40th about? The 40th was about looking back. And you're right. I think that the 50th is about celebrating Lorne and what he's built. Like, look at the house that he's built and put together. So it's sort of like this is the power of Saturday Night Live, and this is the most powerful the show will ever be when you watch a special like this. So I agree. Kirstin, did you want to jump in on any other points that we talked about here for overall with the special?
I'm with you, Rich. The 50th is the one for me. It felt there's a little bit of like theater kids for the win. It was all of these really fun, amazing, talented people wanting so bad to be included, and they were able to include so many of them. I mean, you're like, where's Julia? Okay, she's in the audience, but she's going to do a bit with the dog and with Adam Driver. And so it was, again, like just confetti being sprayed in the air. I absolutely loved it. And I think you've articulated, Rich, really well what the 40th was and what the 50th was. And you, John, you're talking about the house that Lorne built. 1000%. The amount of comedy legend in one space. Again, how does this become more of an annual thing so that we have the soaps have awards?
I hope someone got pregnant last night.
If Tracy had any say in it, then he definitely made something.
I want comedy legend babies. That's all I care about.
I
want more comedy Nepo babies. More comedy Nepo babies on Saturday Night Live. This show doesn't have enough of
That's
them.
just what we need. So I also want to say that there's an extra layer to the special that I think is really important to point out for those who don't know this, that the people who wrote the special. So, in a regular season of SNL, there's head writers, there's writing supervisors, there's writers. So there was like an all-star team of writers that came in to put the special together in the first place. It's not like, oh, let's just do a Bronx Beat. Let's just do a Lawrence Welk. Like these things have to be written by the writers that are there. So, this special was headed by Tina Fey, Seth Meyers, Jost and Che. So these are all people that, came in over the last 25 years, all-star power. Other people who wrote on the special. So you got like Emily Spivey and Paula Pell, which are, major writers from like the early 30s. And, Paul obviously started in season 21, people from basically, going into that millennium age. James Anderson wrote for the special, somebody who wrote on the show for 20 years. So like the only writer, besides Jack Handy, which was, we could talk about the deep thoughts, and that was a huge surprise. But besides Jack Handy, the only really like older writer who wrote on the special, to my understanding, was Jim Downey, which is awesome. Probably the greatest writer in SNL history, but is probably a little bit different than what we got in the other specials, where I believe at the 40th, you had people like Smigel who were contributing to it. And this time, the reason the special ends up being a lot of these sketches from the last 20 years is because the people who were writing the special were the ones who wrote those sketches. So we can talk about how that came together when we talk about these individual sketches. Does anyone else have any overall thoughts about the special, or are you good to dive into some of the moments? Because there's so many good ones.
I'll give you my one gripe. Oh, sorry. You want to? All right. Well, I'll go quickly. And I understand why they did it. Was you had to service my family who only watches SNL maybe 6 times a year or whatever. In a lot of the sketches, I would rather, instead of seeing A-list celebrities, I would rather have seen other former cast members who didn't get any airtime on the show. So, we're looking at the alien encounter sketch. Great to see Pedro Pascal, but like that could have been Joe Piscopo. That could have been Tim, that could have been, there's David Koechner could have been in that sketch because he was there.
Right.
And I understand why, because you are servicing more than just the SNL hardcore nerds who know who David Owen, Koechner is, but that was a bummer for me.
Yes, I think that, that was the balance of trying to appease people like us. And then the millions of extra people that are watching the show in prime time, because it really only airs in prime time on the West Coast on a regular basis. But for the first time in 10 years, Saturday Night Live is airing at a reasonable hour for many people to watch it. And that's why you get 14 million people watching it versus like 4 million people. So that all those extra people are like, I mean, Koechner's probably a bad example, but like probably would be like, who the heck is, I probably shouldn't name cast members at this point, but who the hell is this random cast member from this season versus like getting Meryl Streep in something. So it's an interesting balance that they had. and ultimately, I think for ratings wise, for what they were trying to do, the fact that they do the special during sweeps in February because they're trying to accrue all these advertisers, and at the end of the day, they want to make money.
It worked.
It works. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I said, I get it.
Half of the commercials were SNL ads. Half of the
Yeah.
commercials were also extended SNL ads. Like
Yes.
it was hard at a certain. That's my only gripe. Was at a certain point it was hard to be like, oh, is this okay? This is a Capital One commercial. Okay. This one's a T-Mobile commercial. It's a real commercial.
Right.
It
Yeah.
gave me the ick at a certain point.
And a quick anecdote about Joe Piscopo, who I did get to talk to on the carpet, and we will be releasing all of those interviews that I was there for. I'll talk about the experience on the carpet and at the concert on Friday, which was just like incredible to be there for that. So, but Joe did tell me that he was very happy to not be in anything. He did Frank Sinatra at the 40th, and he was like, I just got to sit back and relax and enjoy it. And I do wonder if that was a little bit of the sentiment of some people, because what was interesting about this special versus the others is, there was people who had to sit down in their tuxedos, get up, go backstage, go get ready for a sketch, come back and sit down for 45 minutes, and then go back and get ready for a different sketch. So, huge props to everybody who was in these sketches. I know like this is sort of, their thing, and they're going back to like what they became famous for. But still, it's a different experience than just sitting back, relaxing, and standing up for a second. Amanda, was there anything you wanted to say?
My only thought is that I hope Bill Hader feels really good, because the only other thing that people are asking me my thoughts about the special are, where was Bill Hader?
Okay, so let me talk about that. So
we know he had a scheduling conflict and all of these things, but like I hope he feels good that he is just a part of the conversation, because he wasn't there as he was if he was. You want to be talked about if you didn't go to the party. It's a good thing.
Yeah, look, if
Bill Hader.
I know his representative said he has scheduling conflict, I will choose to believe them. I will also say that my understanding is that Bill, did have a very hard time with Saturday Night Live throughout his time at the show. He's talked about it when he's hosted. I think when he hosted for the first time, he came out, he's like, I'm so incredibly nervous right now. I'm sure that played a little bit of a part in, him not being there. And I will say, we were missing Bill Hader for sure, because to me, he's probably on my Mount Rushmore, if not like one of my top 5 cast members of all time. The power that he brings to the show is unbelievable. And I do think not having Aykroyd, Dana, and Bill there definitely was tough, because had they all been there, oh my gosh, this would have been like even better. But anyways, whatever we do.
It's unfortunate they couldn't telegraph that Hader wasn't there, because even though I thought Weekend Update was soup to nuts fantastic, I was just waiting for Stefan. I mean, it was almost like if you had said to me going into this special, what character are you most likely going to see of 50 years? I would have said Stefan. So I wish they could have telegraphed early on that he wasn't there, so that we would know not to be waiting for a Stefan.
Did you guys find it weird that for the opening montage, they only introduced the musical guests, whereas at the 40th, they had this like absolutely epic montage of like naming all of the people that would be in the special to open the show? Like, I thought that was so bizarre to me.
I didn't, because I liked the surprise, even though I kind of knew Eddie Murphy would be there and other, like, I kind of liked, and then it's a weird, you're sort of pointing out who got asked. Because remember, in this special, a lot of cast members were in 2 sketches. So we're going to see, we're going to see Molly Shannon, we're going to see Anna Gasteyer, we're going to see like in 2 sketches, instead of, again, giving ability to airtime another alumni. So I think it would have felt a little weird if they had kind of telegraphed that.
I think they spent their montage money on the documentary.
Daryl was in the booth. I mean, I saw him there. Daryl was there, so I wouldn't be.
But I mean, that Questlove documentary, that opener, that montage money they spent. They said, we don't have any more montage money. We can't pay the editors anymore. We can't do it.
I get what you're saying. I just I know when I watch that 40th montage and I hear them just like name person after person, great. And then they it's just goosebumpy. All right, there's gonna be so many other things we're gonna talk about with this special. Let's pivot the conversation over to some of the segments, because I think that is the best way to start to cover some of these really great moments. So, Rich, what's the first one you want to talk about?
So many great ones, but to me, I feel like the sketch that most epitomized what is great about 50th anniversary special was Black Jeopardy, because you've got iconic sketch that is not simply recreating it in its former heyday. We've got 4 different cast members from 4 different eras of SNL participating together. I guess Leslie, even though Hard Keaton, because he sort of crosses everybody. You've got one iconic cast member doing an impression of another iconic cast member with the other cast member there. And then you have a cameo from one of the great all-time guest hosts. So I thought this was great. I thought it was, and it was all, I mean, everyone was great. But boy, Eddie Murphy, as talking about that he spends his money on 4 cheese lasagna because he won't eat 3 cheese. I mean, and the commitment and just going on and on. I thought this was really, really fun. And it was just to see, that's what I wanted to see more than anything, was great people from different eras of SNL play together and combine to be greater. You know, the whole was greater than the sum of the parts. And this sketch was it for me. I thought this was such a fun sketch.
I loved that this happened. And, you know, it was such a new sketch when the 40th aired, but I did always think that this would be a great sketch for an anniversary special, because to me, it really represents something very cool about the show in that, you know, the show sort of grows with the times, and you could talk many times about how behind the times the show has been. But in season 39, when this sketch first premiered towards the end of that season, there was a little bit of a reckoning at the show, just going back into SNL history, where there were no Black women on the cast, and they ended up bringing on Sashir. There's this whole episode with Kerry Washington, which I encourage you to go back and watch if you haven't watched it yet. Please. About who's going to play Michelle Obama. They end up hiring Sashir. They hire Leslie. They hire another Black woman to write for the show at the same time. Leslie ends up becoming a performer on the show the following season. And since then, they've obviously made more of an effort to, you know, diversify the cast. And I do think that this sketch is a great representation of, you know, watching the show and being like, oh, they could not do this sketch before because they never hired the performers to do it. And you're able to mine new comedy. And I said this on the show many times over the years that, like, you know, I've seen people in the chat say it. I talk to people, they're like, oh, well, you know, why does it matter about diversity? If you're not funny, you're not funny. Or if you're funny, you're funny. And I always say, it's like, comedy comes from life experience. That's where people write from. And if you don't get people with, you know, different experiences in life, whether it's race or gender or economic status, then you don't mind different comedy. And all we're looking in for a show over 50 years is to find new things that are funny. And I have found with Black Jeopardy, which is to me one of the greatest sketches over the last, you know, 11 years, is that they are always mining new ground with it because they're doing things that they never did on the show before. So to get to celebrate all of these Black performers that have been such a huge part of SNL history for throughout the decades, to me was like emotional and powerful, and I loved every minute of it. I'm so happy, you know, you got Eddie in it, you got the Hanks MAGA character, getting Chris Rock and Tracy Morgan and Leslie Jones together. Like, this to me, Amanda, was so special. So what did it mean to you? How did you feel about it?
Yeah, Black Jeopardy has always been a lot to me. Like, on like a purely, I remember, season 39 when it premiered, I remember being like, there's never been a time where this show it's always been self-referential, but like Black Jeopardy was like really, and I remember crying watching that Kerry Washington cold open where she is just bouncing around that stage because they're like, and here's Oprah, and they're like, why aren't you gonna go? Like, aren't you supposed to go? It's one of those like I was like, oh, that's a joke where you know who they're writing for, and they're trying to write for people who wrote them off years ago. And I think it's interesting that Jay Farrow was in the audience who had a show called Black Famous, because like the whole premise of Black Jeopardy, especially this go around, was about being Black famous, about the fact that SNL is kind of the definition of white famous. It's not universally famous. It's a thing where like Black people have their own thing. They're doing their own thing on Saturday nights. It's not Black famous. I loved this. I also, in general, I think Keenan was having a ball. I think it was so nice to see Eddie doing Eddie in a way that like we have not seen Eddie edifying.
Having fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Edifying, literally. Like, but like truly doing the thing that we know and love, especially after, you know, the 40th where he was all macabre. And I was touched and surprised. And I think that's in a night that was, I will use that word touching over and over again to describe how I felt, but like that was one where I was like, oh, you guys are not going to shy away from the things that you guys did poorly and you failed at in the past, because and the things that have not aged well, because 50 years after 50 years, everyone's done something problematic. Right? We all have. And this show is a living representation of the problematic history of the United States, and the United States pop culture history. So I think that this sketch was just what it's a Band-Aid, but it's a good acknowledgement that like, yes, we've done harm. Yes, we haven't done enough, but guess what? We know how we failed and how we've not done well enough. And that to me is growth. After 50 years, congratulations, growth.
Yeah, it's so interesting because you know, this is one of those sketches. So it appeared 6 times on the show before this, and you know, from a stats perspective, I'll talk about this with Mike when we do our By the Number show later this week. We don't count specials towards the stats, just because it's such a different game. But you know, 6 times during the actual show, we have seen this, and every time they've done this, they've found a different angle that they've approached with Black comedy for this sketch, versus Celebrity Jeopardy, where it's sort of about the impressions and about the relationship between Trebek and Connery. Here, they've always found like a new angle to approach with the show, and I thought it was great that they chose the angle this time of, you know, Black people don't watch SNL. And that was so good to me, because it was so like we wanted the meta-ness of these sketches, and what is the best way to do that, which is sort of, you know, give ourselves a dose of reality, which is that this show wasn't, you know, a lot of Black people who watch the show never felt represented on the show, so they never watched it. So they, you know, they're answering questions like Showtime at the Apollo and In Living Color and all of that stuff. And I thought it was so great, and it was really cool to see somebody like Chris Rock, who, you know, couldn't or didn't hack it on SNL because of, you know, probably that lack of diversity that was around him at the show, for them to come into this sketch and have his moments here. I thought that was fantastic as well. So Kirstin, what did you think about Black Jeopardy and its appearance during the show? Kirstin, you're just muted, so I just want to make sure we got you.
Always great when commentary is combined with comedy, because it's, you know, make me laugh on sometimes a more intellectual level. I'll take a fart joke, but I also want to laugh at, you know, something really smart. I think someone like Eddie Murphy has a lot of pressure on him, because we all expect, and quite frankly, we pretty much know, you could bet that he's going to be fantastic. So when he hosted the show, you know, we're just waiting to see what he did next, but it's so much pressure that we all put on him thinking, well, it's going to be great, of course. And so we did see a looser version of him, as you've said, just having fun. And what a difference it makes when he doesn't feel the pressure to carry a whole sketch, but he's a member of the team. I think that's where it's why we all fell in love with him in the first place when he was on the show. And he took a more dominant role and really stood out, but he was in the playground with all the other kids, and it was a fantastic way for us to see his skills. And so we got another glimpse of that. And I hope it means he comes back and that they write more ensemble pieces around him, because it's where he really shines.
I want to talk quickly about Tom Hanks's role in this sketch, playing Doug, who he played previously in season 42. And the concept of that Black Jeopardy sketch was that, MAGA, or, people who leaned right and, supported Trump at the time, there was always I guess the idea that, Black people don't lean that way. And, just as a general idea. And then in the sketch that they did in season 42, they addressed that by having someone come on who was a really strong Trump supporter, but had so much in common with the other Black performers in that sketch, to the point of Keenan as a host being like, yes, I can't believe I'm saying this, but we are completely aligned on this. And the comedy that they were able to go, back and forth between those, I think was made for one of the best Black Jeopardy sketches. And I have seen so much social media the last couple days, between tweets and Instagram comments, of like, oh, great special, SNL, way to alienate 77 million people or some shit like that. And I'm living for that stuff, because I'm like, you guys, it went right over your head. Go back and watch that sketch, because it is exactly what it is exactly what SNL should be about. It's about, having commentary like that. SNL, Lorne once said, and I believe this comes out in his book that he was just released, which I can't wait to read, that SNL is a show that is truly supposed to be nonpartisan, supposed to be for everybody. I think, Rich, we're getting some background noise from you if you want to just mute.
Oh, sorry.
All right. All good. It's supposed to be a show that's for everybody. And this is a perfect sketch to show that off. So I love that iteration of the sketch. And I love that they brought back the character, even if it wasn't executed fully with the whole handshake thing at the end again. Still, really nice moment here. So, Rich, I'm glad that you brought up Black Jeopardy as the first one to talk about. Amanda, I'm going to send it over to you for the next sketch that you want us to talk about.
Okay. First of all, I wanted to talk about the musical, but then I was like, there's too much going on here. That's too much. I want to talk about Domingo. I want to talk about what I'm considering to be Domingo Part 3, the next Domingo, RIP. I just came up with that title. It has I cannot tell you where the colons and the semicolons fall in that title, but it's a thing. Just stay with me on this one. Okay?
Officially, they're calling this the vow renewal Domingo.
Domingo, colon, the vow renewal. Thank you. Yes. Okay. Anyone who's mad about this, you can shut up. You can shut up.
I'm listening.
Okay. So yes, the second Domingo did not work as well as the first one. But here's the thing. I'm going to talk to you from my journalist media mindset. They put this in this special using Sabrina Carpenter, because not only was the first one referencing her song, but also because this is an example of the metrics and the way we measure success in the future of Saturday Night Live. Before Domingo, yes, we had YouTube. We did. But before Domingo took over on TikTok, becoming what I believe is the Saturday Night Live's most successful video on TikTok of all time, I would say it's important to end the through line, bring this into the 50th anniversary special, because of what it represents. It represents the future of the way the multimedia experience of viewing this show will be. It is what it's cutting these things. Yes, we talked about the TikTokification of Saturday Night Live, and yet whether or not you think it's a bad thing, that is the future of this show. But we in 1975, we did not have a way to literally view that, 185 million people watched this one video. We didn't have that 50 years ago. No. So now we have to end this through line and yes, put it to bed, but we should celebrate it solely for the fact that it is a success for the business of Saturday Night Live as a service, as a being external of the creation of this show, the creation of comedy. It is a business. It is still capitalism at the end of the day. This sketch needed to exist for that and for Molly Shannon.
So no, let me just say, I love your point, because I don't think that this is about the success of the show. I think this is about a pivot in how the show works as a whole. I think there has never been Like, if there's any proof that the people who watch the show have power, it's this sketch, which is, goes to show you, like, again, it wasn't my cup of tea. I said that here the first time I watched it, but that doesn't mean that it didn't work for a ton of people. And that's the greatest thing about SNL. That's the greatest thing about doing these podcasts, is like, we debate sketches all the time. So I didn't love it, but so many people did that they shared it and talked about it. And then the show took that as, as a, vote of confidence to keep putting it on the show. And that is different, where there wasn't that platform available for so many years for the fans to then communicate back to the show.
Literally come back. It's it's fan service.
Yeah, and say
we see TikTok musicians show up on SNL and we complain about the same thing. But guess what? They have a metric. They have a measurable device that allows them to tell what people are going to view. That's why Tate McRae is hosting in 2 weeks.
Oh, musical guest, but yes, but
thank you. Sorry, yeah.
But I just want to be clear. But yes, you are very right that if there's any lesson that we're learning in season 50, as a when we're here in 25 years, all talking about the 75th, there's going to be many more sketches that will become SNL lore, because we as the people made it lore.
We made it lore. We made it fact.
Right. And this sketch only became a big deal because the fans wanted it to. And it's probably the first time that's ever happened, versus, them reading like the New York Times and being like, oh, okay, I guess people like this sketch. Let's just keep doing it. Okay, they're dressing up as these characters for Halloween. Let's just keep doing it.
My other point is that I will say the reason why the second one didn't work as well as the first, and I enjoyed number 3 not as much as the first one, period, but like, it's because everyone likes to watch a good singer pretend like they can't sing well. Everyone enjoy, and Ariana Grande and Sabrina Carpenter could do that. Charlie XCX takes pride in her leaning into autotune, in her level of the autotune. So I'm not saying she can't sing, but it's like a different caliber. So that's another thing that I think is always important to remember. But yes, but also Molly Shannon. I would watch that woman.
Well, yeah, paint. Molly and Marty was great. And I believe it was originally supposed to be Steve Carell, and he ended up being replaced by Marty. But I got to say, I've never had this experience in my SNL life where I've watched an initial sketch and disliked it so much, and then watched the other iterations of it and then just liked it more and more. I don't know what, I'm trying to figure out the chemistry here, Kirstin, to figure it out, but it just keeps getting better for me. And I think it might have to do with the idea that the bridesmaids are actually singing well now, whereas in the first one, it was like really distracting that there was like a second game going on about how bad they are at performing. But this time it has more to do with the actual storylines that are happening with Domingo. And eventually we're going to talk about Ronaldo, played by Pedro Pascal, Bad Bunny playing Santiago. But yeah, there was that here. Obviously there was the whole flip on the sketch where we're going to have the groomsmen come in as I guess they were Scots. They were all named Scott and one was named Dale. But yes, Kirstin, how did you feel about the third iteration of Domingo?
I'm a little bit impartial to Domingo. I don't love it or hate it. But I think the reason it's so compelling is because it is a continuous storyline. So we've become somewhat invested in the relationship between these two, as dysfunctional as it is. So they aren't treated as standalone riffs on something. If you look at something like Lisa from Temecula, we don't know the relationship between them all. But in this sketch, we automatically know these are her girls. This is the husband. There's the guy she cheats with. We're going to go, and there's always a different trip. Like, it's not just a Mad Libs version of a repetitive sketch. There is a complete story. And so we're waiting for the next chapter. What's going to happen? Oh my God, she had a baby. I mean, it's a soap opera. Oh my gosh. Now, they're having a vow renewal. Oh, he's with someone. It's just a hot goss sandwich all over the place. So I think that's why we like it. It's because it's iterative and we keep coming back for just a little bit more of that. I will say, Amanda, the thing about the people having spoken, that's actually been proven true with digital shorts also, and all the movies that come out of the show.
I agree. That's why I said it's a different metric of measurement. it's like, because YouTube is it's a separate audience.
Yeah.
So like a TikTok audience and the YouTube audience are different. And even so, YouTube views and subscribers are different. Like this is my job. So like it's a different level of metric measurement. And so like it's about appealing to two separate types of audiences, which is why we had a digital short. The digital short was appealing to the millennial audience. The Domingo was for the Gen Z audience. Congratulations. Thank you so very much. You do call them Gen Z Canadians.
Yes. At the end of the
so
day,
much
the
more.
business is looking at what's popular and where do they invest. And, you know, yes, they can get more metrics and they can rationalize their spend more, but they just see
It's
something
wild.
popular and they want to
repeat it. But I think it's a signal to be like, yeah, this is the future of what's coming, which is why I think it came also in the first third of the episode too.
And I would rip this sketch to shreds if there was no continuity, because they never do recurring sketches anymore, and they played by the rules this time. It's not like a Blizzard Man sketch where they're like, oh, that white rapper can't rap. Like it's like, and they just pretend like they've never seen it before. Like there is a storyline here, and that is exactly what I'm always asking for. So in this new world that we're living in with SNL, where we really don't get recurring characters, it's so fascinating to me that this is the one. It's just like, Beavis and Butthead or David Pumpkins, like they barely bring back these like really big moments over the last 10 years. But this is the one that they just something hit and they're just like, we want to see this again. And I do find it, like Amanda said, from a business perspective, very fascinating. I do want to talk about some of the people that were in this sketch, but I don't want to take away any points that Rich has to talk about from it. So Rich, let me head to you first on it. What did you think about Domingo?
Here's what I was thinking as Amanda was talking about this. If this sketch is meant for Gen Z, then I am Gen ZZZ, because I was falling asleep during this sketch. This sketch to me is, this is the new Californians for me. This is just, now that said, I completely understand why they did this sketch. It is for YouTube. It is for anyone who is my niece's age watching with their parents on NBC or on Peacock. To me, the reason I was bummed to see this is only because to me, this is one of the most Mad Lib sketches, in that while the words are a little bit different, it's kind of like doing Bassomatic again at the 40th. We're really just doing the same sketch. Now, there was a second half to it, which is really fun. That said, here is my positive to it. What I loved is that, taking away the second half, taking out the preamble, which was so funny, the meat of the sketch was watching current cast members, Heidi, Sarah, Ego, Andrew, and Chloe, being as funny as Eddie Murphy, as Anna Gasteyer, as some of the great, as Kristen Wiig. So to see them play at the same level and have a sketch, while it's not for me, the execution to me, it's not like if you never watched SNL ever and you watch the 50th, you would think, oh, the performers in the sketch are greener, newer, not as good, not as polished, not as seasoned. You'd go, yeah, they're all great. So I did like that we got a chance for the current cast, at least a good piece of the current cast, to shine in the 50th, to show that they've got the medal, they've got the chops to be considered part of the 50th. Where in the 40th, I felt like maybe the current cast was a little bit of an afterthought. So for that, I enjoyed it. And I did enjoy the second half, as you're going to write that, where now we've got the groomsmen and now we're going to see some alumni come in. I thought that was a really fun twist on it. I will also say, and again, this is such an SNL nerd thing to say, don't start singing a Taylor Swift song and have all of America go, is Taylor Swift about to show up? Oh, no, she's not.
I did say that. I was like,
no.
I was like,
yes.
That would bring
especially with Sabrina Carpenter there and stuff. So, not my. Certainly when I say look at the canon of 50 years, what represents the power that is this sketch? It's Domingo, but still fun that they did it, and I get why they did it.
Yeah, me too. And I love a lot of the points that you said. So that's why I'm glad you went before me on that, because, hitting on the fact that the current cast was in this was super important. I mean, we talk about SNL season 50 every single week, and we always say that, like, there are a couple stars on the cast, but like nobody's truly broken out in the way that other eras have. And this is another really smart business decision that I think they had this weekend, which was like, let's get as many current cast members as possible in some of these sketches to work with previous eras and then hopefully, you know, build their stardom even more. And I think that really works. When the doormats came in, I died, because for me, Bowen was really good, but Beck Bennett, who I think does not get enough credit for his time at the show, is so hilarious to me, playing just like the dumbest groomsman broy guy. Kyle was great in this as well. And then Andy Samberg. And to see Andy with Bowen, Beck, and Kyle as if they were all castmates together. I know that they rehearsed, but you know, all from slightly different eras of the show. The fact that Beck and Kyle, when they first came on the show, everyone was talking about Good Neighbor videos and whether they were as good as Lonely Island and comparing them. And I know that on the Lonely Island Seth Meyers podcast, Andy's mentioned, you know, when he first came back after leaving the show, some of the people that were making videos at the time, he felt like there was like a little bit of tension there because, you know, everyone was always being compared to them. And this was really cool to me to get to see these people all together. Just like I talked about with Black Jeopardy, I also think, like, you know, for diversity sake, the fact that you got like Pedro Pascal and Bad Bunny and Marcelo together. We had that moment with the, you know, when Bad Bunny hosted with the recurring sketch where Pedro Pascal's dressed up. But again, just to have this group of people together here, I think was really nice in this sketch. So overall, it keeps getting better. I would maybe drop it for the rest of season 50 and don't do anything else with this one for a little bit.
Oh God, please.
Yes,
Please.
but
Yes.
this was this is for sure one of the most essential things that has happened this season is the birth of the recurring sketch. Perhaps that will happen as we turn towards the future of the show. More moments like this that are decided by you watching at home. Kirstin, what moment from the show do you want to talk about?
I'll continue this theme of, I guess, integration but among former and current cast members with my comments on the pre-tape, the digital short, Anxiety. I love this for many reasons. The most obvious one that hits you right out of the gate was that it was all about the 80s. And the costume folks must have had a heyday because it was amazing eye candy. But what it achieved as well was something really beautiful and personal and heartfelt, because they included so many of the behind the scenes people that helped put on the show, and also a real behind the scenes feel for what it must be like as a cast member. And, you know, Bill Hader actually suffering from anxiety or not, I think that's a rumor that's out there about, sorry, it's not a rumor, I think he said that, but about why he didn't attend the show. But then also, you know, we've heard about the stress and the pressure of being on the show. I think this was handled in a really nice way. You know, at the 40th, Andy did breaks, that montage with Adam Sandler, and I enjoyed that, but I did enjoy this more. I enjoyed it better. Some of my favorite moments, you know, there were Laura-like mentions, you know, sitting under the bleachers with Lauren, that for super fans, we appreciate. You had Sarah in there with her kind of pictorial brain to gut connection. You had the pictures of the actual pipes in the basement, which was a hilarious detail for me. Chris Silver Fox Parnell back with a rap. Hello, sir. Hasn't lost it. In fact, improved. The VFX of Anna and Molly, or Anna and Molly, when they went from the NPR hosts, and they took that still and then they kind of did a little and they stood up and they were in real time, was chef's kiss beautiful. Will Forte being told that he's number 46 and his what the F. And then the nod to therapy. I mean, like, listen to this list I'm going on. I think seeing Andy with Bowen, like they had been working together for years already. This type of writing, when Andy nails the singing, because sometimes it doesn't happen. This to me was just magical. It checked so many boxes when it comes to writing, the performances, a nod to behind the scenes, a nod to the full kind of cohort of folks that put this amazing show on, and then this comedic kind of styling with the 80s. Like, there you go. Loved it. Mic drop.
I loved it too. I mean, if I understand correctly, I didn't get a chance to I was traveling back from New York today, so I didn't get a chance to fully listen to the hot take show. But my understanding is like it wasn't the most favorite thing of the night for some people. But to me, this totally hit. I mean, the beat that has been stuck in my head for since I first heard it. And I'm such a sucker, like going back to even one of the first shows we ever covered, Maya Rudolph's show in season 46, where they did like the Mayaing, and they do sometimes these like really nice pre-tapes where you're walking in the hallway reminiscing about old times. And I love the whole like, okay, we're gonna start with the 70s and Dan Aykroyd, and then move to Eddie Murphy, and then talk about the Delicious Dish women, and then getting transitioning over to live Anna and Molly. Like that to me, like going through SNL history, like really made this work, and it all had a great through line as well. And I thought Bowen, who to me, I did tell him this on the carpet, that I said, like, how did it feel to be the star of the show in the biggest season in SNL history? And he was like, no, I feel like we have like a great ensemble in the cast. And he totally does. But I mean, you look at the metrics, he's absolutely dominating. And I thought it was really cool of Andy to share the spotlight with Bowen Yang, who absolutely held his own in this sketch alongside him. There were so many great moments. Rich, how did you feel about Anxiety, the digital short from the 50th?
Yeah, boy, I love this. I mean, everything you both said, it really sums it up. I mean, what I love about the 50th is that you're getting like this end is similar in some ways to the song that Adam Sandler sang. It's so meta, and yet it still works as straight comedy, but it is such a, it is self-referential in such a wonderful way. Yeah, I thought this was super fun. Parnell looks better today than he looked on the show. So screw him. Also one of the nicest guys in the world. So just great. Everything about this was great. Love that we got to see, even if for a blink, Yorma a cameo, since he hadn't been in the digital shorts that I think of this year. That so it was great to see him with Akiva in a quick thing. And as you guys both said, that the crew, I loved both times sort of calling out crew and giving crew a little shout out during the 50th. So yeah, I thought it was super fun. I really like this a lot.
Yeah, there was a lot of really good behind the scenes stuff here where they showed members of different departments. They showed Grace and Carrie and Jeff, who are the booking department. I believe they are the ones that actually book the host and musical guests. So there was a shot of the three of them. They showed the director's room. You got Liz Patrick and Michael Mancini and the rest of the directing team that were there. Ryan Spears I saw in there, as well as they had a whole group of editors that are there. A lot of them check out our show. So shout out to them for being in this. Jody was in there from the hair department. Louis, the makeup. You mentioned Yorma and Akiva. Mike Shoemaker was in there with Seth Meyers. You got a shot of Will Ferrell and Fred Armisen and Vanessa Bayer. Some of the writers, Jake Nordwin, Mike DiCenzo, Brian Tucker was in this. Like, that was really cool. I mean, even going back to the monologue with the shout out from Steve Martin to show all the writers that were standing outside in the pouring rain. This show did a really, really great job. We could talk about Tina and Amy with what they did with Donna. We got Jenna as well. This show did a really good job covering the behind the scenes as well, which sometimes I don't know when it pivoted, but at a certain point they like tried to hide, who was working behind the scenes. And now they're just completely opened up the fact that these people, are what makes the show run. So that was really cool that they included them. Amanda, how did you feel about Anxiety, the digital short?
First of all, I famously have anxiety. I don't know if you guys knew this. It's a part of my brand. I'm a very anxious person. I loved it because it was another point of just like this was an evening of being deeply self-referential, but like getting almost like hitting the part where it's like everyone on the show has anxiety. It's like, yes, I used to work in restaurants. My anxiety only became worse once I started working in restaurants, because everything has to go perfectly from the minute you basically say go. Yeah, but I appreciated the fact that it's like, it's not the stars, they're just like us, but it is like the stars are just like us. Like, this job is hard. It's not as hard as working in a coal mine, but it's kind of as hard as working in a coal mine. Like, I really appreciated it. And I also, again, I'm just gonna keep going back to Anna Gasteyer and how, and Molly Shannon and everyone else. Just this was a good night for the ladies of SNL. Like, I'll return to this later on, but it was, I thought it was also just beautiful to look at. Just like, really, I always, in this podcast, I've referenced how much appreciation I have for the cast and crew of this show, and like the visual designers of this show. And like, this was so beautiful to look at. But it was, like, I'm glad to know that they have anxiety. I don't have IBS, but that just shows that everyone who SNL probably has a lot of Virgo placements. But, you know, IBS. It's true.
Well, we're not doing the stock watch here tonight, but I will say, I was talking with some of our producers for our shows, and we were saying that I don't think anyone's stock rose more this weekend than Anna Gasteyer, who just dominated the concert on Friday night.
She's gonna have so many jobs.
Oh my gosh,
she's gonna be booked.
Like, it just goes to show you like how crazy it was that she's never hosted the show. That, you know, she was just like crushed it in the Culps as one of the women working with Bill Murray on Friday night. She did so much in the special. You know, like, this to me was just a huge weekend for Anna. Parnell as well, like, everyone being reminded about how good he was. I mean, the guy wasn't just one of the greatest rappers on the show ever. He was, you know, one of the greatest people that like, you put Parnell in a sketch, it completely elevates the level of that sketch. And
did you guys talk about the Vulture list of the best, like, the SNL cast members rating the most underrated SNL cast members of all time?
We did not talk about that, but I do want to shout out Andy Hoagland, who wrote that.
It was an incredible story, but like, the fact that it was like the top three being Tim Robinson, Chris Parnell, and Will Forte. I think that everyone in this audience, like, I was like, yeah, absolutely. But Chris Parnell, he's king. I loved him so much. I love him.
I did tell him. I spoke to him this weekend. I told him that he changed my life because, and he's like, really? And I'm like, you probably get this all the time, but I'm telling you, you came into my life and you sent me on a course and made me do a million really bad raps for projects in high school, and then somehow that led to this. And he was just the nicest person in the world. So he's a good guy, and I'm really happy that they got him in this. Also, Sarah Sherman. I mean, I just want to shout out. She was like all over the special as well, and like, talk about somebody who's having a great season again.
Incredible.
Like, yeah,
and vocally ate it up. Vocals.
Yeah, completely crushed that. So great job to everybody involved in this one. Happy always. I mean, just every time we get a new digital short, I feel blessed. Let's talk about a sketch that to me, this was this is the sketch that I will always remember first from this special, because it just had the biggest wow moments for me. And that was Scared Straight, which was one of my favorite sketches during my favorite era of the show. This is the sketch that Colin Jost writes typically with Keenan on this sketch, and Jason obviously became a big part of that. But you get the whole thing about a Scared Straight program, and it used to be Andy Samberg and Bill Hader and Bobby Moynihan sitting in the chairs, and Lorenzo McIntosh would come in and try and scare them, but doing so using metaphors, or metaphors of movies that he's seen. And when they would say, well, isn't that this movie, he would then go and wreck them up. And the balance between Jason and Keenan in these sketches to me was always so great. And I never thought we'd see it on the show again. I was really hoping that they would bring it back when Jason hosted, because Colin is still there as a writer and a performer. And I figured, like, that's a great thing to do. But we haven't seen it in so long on the show. And then they brought it back in the best possible way by putting in Eddie Murphy next to Kenan Thompson, who was so hilarious. I think his character's name was May in this. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be good. And to see the two of them together was really fun. And my imagination and my mind was blown when Will Ferrell walks into this sketch, a pairing with Eddie and Will that I never thought I would see together. When you talk about like top 10 cast members of all time and you start to think about the pairings and the arrangements we can get, this is like the dream pairing for two cast members from the history of the show to get put together. And I think that just like he did after 9/11, where he walks in with that American flag Speedo, I think
I thought
he
the same
said,
thing.
yes, and you, if you ever watch the Cowbell documentary, he says that just came out. He says, I went to wardrobe, but I told them, give me a shirt that's really tight. I think Will Ferrell went full classic Will and said, give me the shortest shorts that could possibly not show my junk, but just as be as close as he can, and just broke Keenan from the moment he walks into the sketch. And he was so ridiculous and stupid. And to me, this is the moment that you could have only dreamed about when watching this special. Seeing them all together, I loved every minute of it, and I don't want to take any more points away from the three of you as we do discuss this magical moment with Scared Straight. So Rich, what were your thoughts on it?
Oh my God! So I almost wish this had followed the montage of the physicality that they had done through the years, because to me this is a sketch. The writing of the sketch is absolute paint by numbers. It's absolute Mad Libs. It's take a movie, insert the thing, we get it. Who cares? The magic of this sketch is the physicality, it's the energy, it's the performance. It's Keenan grabbing a shoe off someone's foot in real time. It's all of them getting on top of each other, all the way down to at the end. It's Sudeikis hopping on the desk with the loudest bang in the history of the show. That was so great. I mean, and by the way, I would say the perfect 10-1 sketch, but I don't even know what time it was in New York when this aired. But it was such a great high energy sketch. And I love, as you said, to see Keenan and Eddie and Will and Sudeikis together. And then you've got Marcelo and Mikey getting to be playing a part of it. So you've got the current cast fully represented. Keenan's kind of this like the ghost of SNL. He's, so many years. But boy, I just thought this was such a fun, funny way. And the fact that we're self-referential, we're talking about the Nutty Professor, we're talking about Elf. So we've got that meta aspect that works better on an anniversary special than a normal sketch. So everything about this to me made this like just one of the most perfect final live sketches of the night.
So Jason hopping on the desk is like my Super Bowl. I literally there used to be a thing, if you're a sports fan, I know some people listen to us are a sports fan, there used to be a thing if you watch Sunday Night Football where the analyst that was there, Chris Collinsworth, Mike Tirico or Al Michaels would start the show, and they would just they introduce Sunday Night Football where they would be, and he'd be on talking, and then Chris Collinsworth would like slide into the shot, and it became like the biggest thing ever online, that people would wait for the slide and cheer for it and put videos of it online. And that to me like reminds me a lot of this like Jason hopping on the desk thing that I used to love at the time, because he did it one, like he used to, like when the first couple times he would just sort of like scooch his butt up there, but then he did like a giant hop once and the whole set shook, and Hader and Sandberg and Bobby were just dying, and he does this every time now. And to me, it's like as soon as that happened, I was watching this at a bar. Amanda, Kirstin were both there, and I literally stood up. I was like, yes, you did it. So it was just the best moment ever for me. Amanda, how did you feel about the return of Scared Straight?
Well, first of all, bringing it back to Jason Sudeikis' physicality and the fact that the man is a living trampoline. I was actually shocked to see Scared Straight, because I thought it was going to be What's Up With That. Like I, in my heart of hearts, expected.
I think they're saving it, by the way, Amanda. I think that may come out during the finale this year. That's my prediction. I'm just saying.
Don't do this to me, Jonathan.
I'm saying. I think they're holding it back for a very special reason. But I could be wrong.
But like the man he can get air. Like I don't know what's in his body is built different. Like a living trampoline, where the bouncy shoes, like he has those built into his hamstrings. I love that man so much. Yes, I expected to see What's Up With That. And so when I saw it was this, I was like, all of my What's Up With That disappointment was literally shoved to the side, because I was like, and then as it built, as it went on, this was a masterclass in writing escalation, in the way that you can escalate a sketch to a point, to an apex, and the apex is still as funny as the beginning point of the sketch. And I think that this was incredible. Like I can't say enough. Like this, I believe this was the last live sketch of the evening, and this is the way to end this, what was not a pitch perfect evening, but a very close to perfect evening. This is the way you want to end it, and I really appreciate it. And yeah, like just every bit of this movie, self-referential, like these, like even just when Will Ferrell just went like, I'm talking about Alf. It's Alf. It's Alf. I was like, you think? And also because I was like, my mom at home would not know that he was talking about Alf. So like, I'm glad that he's like, she was been like, can they get to the point? Yeah, I really loved this.
I also think they probably save it for the end of the night because they know that this is the one that could go off the rails the most.
And it did.
When you have, I think Eddie swore in it.
Mhm.
Obviously, Will was just like a menace. And I think that was just like, they knew that was gonna happen. Kirstin, I have a pitch though. I have, like, again, this was brilliant and I loved it. I have one thing that I really wish that they did in this sketch that they didn't do, which was that I do feel like it was, it was fun that we were talking about Harry Potter and Nutty Professor and Elf and all of that. I think that they should have done SNL movies as their metaphors. And like do Wayne's World, do that. That to me was like the place to get in stories about, Pat, like, MacGruber. Like I feel like that's the place to do that, and it would have been a really great tie into SNL history. That's my only caveat that I didn't like about it. How did you feel about the sketch?
Ooh, that's so close though, because Nutty Professor and Elf. Oh,
yeah,
yeah, that decision tree. I love what you said about it being last because it could have gone off the rails, because you've got some real Hammond going on. You absolutely have. We knew Jason was going to jump on that couch. We were on the desk. We were like, he's going to jump. He's going to jump. And I would love to see the supercut they made when it was his last show, that kind of behind the scenes piece. I love that we all knew Will definitely didn't show up like that in rehearsal. And is just being a complete jokester. How much do I want him to be my friend? Oh, so much. He did check at one point, I think, to make sure that the junk was tucked, because he came close to the equivalent of a nip slip. I don't know what that would be. Come up with your own creative ideas there. And then Keenan really tackled Mikey more so than I've ever seen anyone get tackled before. Yeah. It was fun. You could tell they were just at that point in the night. They're like, it's been a great night. This is fun.
Let's party.
And then you've got Eddie and Will, and the energy was okay. Sometimes you get those two people in a room, you worry that they suck the air out of it, but it didn't. Like, it almost gave them each a little bit of just room to feel comfortable, to own their own character. And I think there was a very professional sense of performance in which one wasn't trying to outshine the other. There was like, there's room for all of us. We've all got something fun going on. Just let it happen. And that was the mark of two professionals. And that's what we were here to show up and see. So it was fun to see, for sure. And for people to rehash that. And again, Rich, as you mentioned, like, we've got some current casts with all these, old legends. Really well done. Yeah,
I think the term you were looking for was a sack attack, but
okay.
All right. Yeah. This was really awesome to get to see that in the show. Let's do some a little bit of rapid fire like we typically do on our Monday night roundtables, though we are here on a Tuesday. And we'll talk about other moments from the show that we just want to make sure that we do cover here. So Rich, where would you like to send us?
Oh my God. So many great moments, but I got to say, classic Hollywood couple, beautiful woman in her 30s and drunk idiot in his 70s. I mean, the Weekend Update features across the board were great. When I think of Weekend Update features, grumpy old man, opera man, Stefan, as we talked about, I think that the girl that you get caught at a party, I mean, that is, to me, the girl you had sort of conversation with the party is one of my favorite characters. And to see her back doing it again, it was it was funnier than I remembered it. She is so great on Weekend Update. Just on the speed run, I thought that was great. And then, I mean, Drunk Uncle Bobby being on the 50th with that feature, being in, and being so edgy when he went, "Not my Captain America." We screamed that they actually let that get on the air. Everything about him was so fun. When he went, "Cheeseburger, cheeseburger, cheeseburger, cheeseburger," and they're like, "Oh, the sketch from the 70s is like, no, I misplaced 4 cheeseburgers backstage." I mean, everything about it. And so the idea of the two of them together. So in general, Weekend Update for me, that, I mean, clearly, seeing Vanessa Bayer and Fred Armisen back was fantastic, and Bill Murray was fun. But overall, I just thought that those two specifically was such a great highlight for me.
Yeah, this was really, really fun. First of all, Cecily, I don't know how many months pregnant she is, but she's like glowing. She looks beautiful, and like her going out there and performing as pregnant as she is, like it was so awesome, and just get to see her bring back this character we haven't seen in a while. That we created a storyline here between the fact that Drunk Uncle is the one that impregnated her, I think was so great. And I thought that they had something so clever where I thought, I still enjoyed what we saw, but I thought what they were going to do is that we were going to start going back in time and getting anchor to correspondent, like just keep going and going and going, because where we go from Jost and Che with Girl You Wish You Hadn't Started a Conversation With, Bobby, Colin with Drunk Uncle, then you get Seth Meyers, who comes out, and I think Seth, I think he cut his hair, or he changed his hairstyle to look more like he was when he was on the show, but I thought he looked great, and it was so fun to get to see him behind the desk again, bringing out Lauren's best friends from growing up, and having Vanessa Bayer back on the show. That was wonderful. So I will say, that was really nice. And
then Canada too.
Yeah, 100%. I love the Canadian gear. And then what I thought we were going to do is I thought we were going to go then to like Tina and Jimmy, who were going to bring out somebody from their era, then go back, even further, go to Colin Quinn, go to Kevin Nealon. Like, I thought that's what might happen here. Regardless, though, that's nothing to say that there's nothing against what we did get, which is that Bill Murray, who stole the show at the 40th with performing Jaws, may have also stolen the show at the 50th, because him, if you don't know and you've never watched the original era of the show, Bill, before he was an update anchor, was one of the best correspondents, because he would come on and he would do his yearly Oscar picks, where he would be talking about who's going to win the best actor and best actress and supporting actress, best picture, all of that. And basically he had a version of this that he did, ranking the update anchors. Now, I totally disagree with the list, but it was all a joke and all fun. And this was written by Jim Downey, and there was a lot of really nice moments, including the OJ joke that was an ode to Lauren. And I believe I saw online that Downey told Bill Murray, as soon as you make that OJ joke, I want you to stare into the camera for a really long time, exactly the way that Norm would do it, which was a really nice, touching tribute to him. So to me, like, this was a really, really well done segment of the show. Could you have done other things? Absolutely. But overall, this was so much fun that we got to see these crossovers and a couple fun things from different eras. Amanda, let me send it over to you, though. Anything else that you saw from the show that you want us to talk about?
Bringing back to Weekend Update, I do want to point out one thing that you might not have known, is that when they cut to Seth Meyers, he goes, "Thank you, Amy."
Yes, that was
good. Which I like. And speaking of, I did appreciate the little segment of Amy and Tina talk to the audience, which was basically invoking her, them hosting the Golden Globes a decade ago. I'm glad they pointed out, they were like, we're just doing this to the people that we invited feel special. That they make sure that they were seen on camera and get all the camera time that they needed. I loved that. In general, there's things I could talk about. I could talk about my fellow cancer sister Meryl Streep showing up.
My mother used to see her. Pause down on the audience Q&A for a second, Amanda, because I want to make sure that just so we can have just a coherent discussion of the people that were there. So let me just read out to who we got here. So here's Here's a list of people that they talked to in the Q&A. Quinta Brunson, Tim Meadows, which they also talked to at the 40th when Jerry did the Q&A. Ryan Reynolds, which I want to ask you about in a second. Nate Bargatze, John Lovitz did a quick pre-tape moment across the street in the American Girl store. Julia Louis-Dreyfus with the dog. Adam Driver next to her. Cher was in this. Keith Richards, who they actually accurately got when he said he left his thing in 1988. He was the musical guest for the premiere in 1988. So really great props.
Oh, I thought you were going to say he actually left something there in 1988.
Oh, I don't know, but he was 1988. SNL never gets these year things right. So like at one point, I think in the monologue, they said there's been like 800 hosts and there's only been like 600 something. So Michael talked about that.
I was going to ask you about that too. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's just call us guys when you're writing this stuff. Galifianakis was back, which was great. John Hamm, Bad Bunny, Seth was in this. We got Reverend Al Sharpton next to Ray Romano. Jason Momoa had a great bit. Fred Armisen just destroyed me. Mm-hmm. Absolutely destroyed me with his, all right, well, I guess I'll pitch it next time Spacey hosts. I just
and the audience is just holding it.
Held it for so long, and like Jimmy behind him was on the floor. Like it was just, you go back and watch the visual of that. I also spoke to Fred this weekend, and that guy he just kills me. And Peyton Manning as well. So Amanda, out of the people I listed, was there anyone that really stood out to you? And I want to particularly ask you about this Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively moment, because that's like all the internet can talk about was like, how could Ryan possibly do this? It's not funny, blah, blah, blah. Like this was hilarious to me that he did that.
Yes. So, I mean, the people who stood out to me, yes, Fred Armisen, as you know, I've had thoughts about that man on this podcast. That is the most I've ever liked this man in a very long time. Do not love me some Fred Armisen. But I, in general, would
you say you're Fred Armisen's number one fan now? No? Okay. All right. Keep going.
But also it's very nice to see my dad, Tim Meadows, just pop up anywhere at any time. And I also, because I also really loved the Fred Armisen moment, because it's like, that there have been those people backstage being like, but like, why did he kill my sketch? Like, do you like Seth Meyers is always, it'd be like, we just didn't have time. Okay. It just didn't work out. Like, anyway, loved that little bit. That Ryan Reynolds moment it's not great for optics, in my opinion, not great for optics, but, if you're two people who love attention and you need attention as much as he does, go ahead. He has there's again, we're going back to the business sense of Hollywood, and the Hollywood the machine has to promote people where it does, and it does, and so it's fine, great.
Okay.
But I
think also, you could argue we might be entering a post-optics world.
Very that.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. All right.
But I think in general, I just enjoyed that little bit a lot, and I enjoy just also, can we just give a little shout out to the fact that Jon Hamm was at home crying, looking like after he left, he had a voodoo doll of Pedro Pascal being like, I used to be you. I was the favorite. Why wasn't I? What did I do me? Like he got a whole John Ramon reference, but bring him back.
Well, they did put him in the in the Colleen Rafferty sketch as well. So he did have a moment there.
He needs more.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. And also Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Thank you.
Oh, JLZ crushed in this.
Great week for her.
Yeah, I always found it really funny that like they pan to Adam Driver, who she's thirsting over. And Brad Hall is probably like right next to her on the other side, which is very funny. Obviously it's a bit, but it's still hilarious.
Get their hot son to be on this show. That's a Nepo baby I want. Brad Hall and Julia Louis-Dreyfus's kid. Go follow him on Instagram. He's unbelievably hot.
Okay. Noted. But I'll say that these segments that they do, not everything's always going to hit for you, but they're probably the most fan servicey moments of the show, because you get to see the audience and actually get to see who's sitting next to who, and like they pan there, see who's made it, who's in the room and stuff like that. So I thought it was really fun at the 40th. You had those great moments between Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld, and there was some really good stuff here. Tina and Amy looked great. They sounded great. I thought it was awesome.
But
Kirstin,
also, was Tim Meadows on when Sade was a musical guest? That's I need a fact check.
He was.
On.
They got the year wrong though. But
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Kirstin, was there anything else on? I know you always come with a list of other things that you like. Is there anything else?
You bet. For that crowd work, I will say I love the Jason Momoa bit with the wardrobe person. That was very sweet.
Madonna, yeah.
Yeah, I did look up a few other male equivalents for nip slips. I share with you.
Oh.
Tip slip, meat leak, and snake break.
Okay,
You're
this
welcome.
wasn't exactly the list that I was asking for, but I
By
really
the way, when
appreciate
you were saying it, what I came up with is a testy bestie.
Oh,
I did not put. I'm the writer over here, and I did not put any effort into that thought. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
A few.
I know we started an hour
random
later tonight, but
yeah,
sorry, you go ahead.
A few random moments I loved. It was really funny when Jenna Ortega and Kevin Costner were being smushed between Will and Jason and the green M&M. And I mean, I know they're actors, but it seemed like they legit weren't aware that was going to happen. I loved seeing one of my favorites, Taran Klum. He was in a couple times and he hasn't been on the show much, and I really, really love him. So was thrilled to see him. I love Denise's third hand. If anyone caught that one, that went right into Will's mouth.
Highlighted the sketch. So funny.
Little moments. Yep. How about when someone asked ScarJo if Colin did it?
Yeah.
Did he beat you?
Yep. And I got two more. One is I really liked the tribute to Sinead O'Connor. I thought that was a really not over the top, no need to say it, just do it type moment to honor that she did something incredibly brave and suffered with her career. Some would argue her life for that. And so having two formidable female singer-songwriters perform that song, I thought was really beautiful. And lastly, when Spade sat down and just said, I got a feel for it. Killed me.
Honestly, so that's me sometimes when I watch SNL. I'm like, I got it. I got a feel for it. Like, I got the premise.
I think they were just
not
the one-liners, the quips, like, those were all the magic moments. So you're either a new fan paying attention and you get it, or you're an old fan and you just love all this. That's the fan service, I think, sometimes just for us, when there's all these little asides that are so personality based and driven that, I mean, that is just sprinkles on the cake.
Yeah, that was really good. There's a couple other things I just want to bring up rapid fire wise. One is Tom Hanks introducing what we all thought was going to be a very sad in memoriam. And
so great.
This flip on the idea of we're, instead of eulogizing the people who are no longer with us, let's say goodbye to all the moments that have aged poorly. And just SNL making fun of themselves for all of the crazy things, and Tom Hanks, who with he's been there for all of the big moments over the last 10 years, COVID, the Omicron episode, like being America's dad, like talking to the audience, and he says, you guys want to blame SNL for these moments, but you are the ones to blame because you all laughed at all of these moments, was so sweet. And I thought that all the clips were really well done. These are all the things. And I going through the Everything You Need to Know series, rewatching the show for the special, seeing all of these things, and myself having the internal conundrum of like, am I enjoying this or should I be allowed to enjoy this? I thought made this moment so much sweeter. Rich, you felt the same way?
Oh my God, that was so great. That was such a great bet. And when with some of the makeup choices where they blurred the faces so you couldn't see them. It was just such a great meta call out of like, we are aware of our history that we are evolving and there's things that we would never do today, but we did, and we don't have to hide it, but we can also acknowledge that that's not the kind of thing we would do, and it's always evolving. So yeah, I thought this was really funny.
Yes, and I know they probably didn't want to do it, but I thought they were going to end the segment and then show Horatio in the audience and just pull out the camera. But I don't know. The thought crossed my mind. Anyways, he was there. But the other moment that I want to talk about very quickly is Bronx Beat, which is a sketch that was one of my favorites also of all time.
One of my favorites.
Maya and Amy's dynamic in this is unbelievable. I always felt like watching the two characters in this, they always felt like I'm like watching like my two moms. I'm like, I just so excited to just have them like talk to each other, and everything that they do to me is so great. And then to get Linda Richman from Coffee Talk onto this sketch as Mike, sort of being the representative of that era, as a Jewish person who really enjoys getting to hear all of the Yiddish that both Linda Richman says and that my grandmother would say a lot, to me was always like really, really hilarious to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is I don't know how it came together, but I never thought like, oh, there's some sort of connection between these characters. But when I saw it, I was like, this is like they fit together like a glove. Like, it was so perfect to have them. Did I need the Miles Teller part? Like, maybe not, but I know they always like thirsting over young guys. But that whole moment with Linda Richman to me was fantastic. Did you guys enjoy that moment as well? Yeah.
I'll be a little contrarian. I loved Mike Myers. I think Linda Richman was probably one of my least favorite sketches that he did. So the fact that we could have seen Dieter, to me, if you're going to bring out Mike Myers, to bring out Linda Richman over some other characters was less interesting to me. But I love seeing the cross-pollination of the characters. So that was really fun.
Yeah, it was definitely a good time. So we didn't do an MVP poll because there was just so many people at the special. Like, how do you possibly do that? But I will put the panel on the spot a little bit. And, based on everything that you saw, I would love if you guys can tell me who you think maybe 1 or 2 or 3 MVPs were from the 50th. So just, think about all of the cast members, all of the guests that were there. Chat, I would also love to see if you guys have any MVPs from, who really brought it to the special and really made it an excellent enjoying experience for you. So, Rich, for you, who would you say the MVP was of SNL50?
Even though it's not screen time, I got to go Eddie Murphy. I mean, that was, he, appearing in 2 sketches, being more game than he's been since he left the show, how many years ago, dominating, hilarious, and very buzzy. So for me, it's got to be Eddie Murphy.
Amanda, what about you?
Anna Gasteyer.
Okay. Did you give us like a one-liner? Why Anna?
Because she delivered in so many ways, but reminded us like why we loved watching her. And also just, she's so multifaceted that we almost forget how like, not how talented, we know how talented she is, but it's like she has her talent is like spread across all these different atmospheres, these different like arenas, and she's so good at all of them that to see here, we got to see every single element of what makes Anna Gasteyer one of the best of all time. Like, and because I do not believe until like Saturday afternoon, I don't think people would have put Anna Gasteyer in the top 5. I think literally Sunday night moved her and into consideration in that category, because it's hard to come back to any job after an extended period of time. But for her to not only come back to do the special, but also do the concert special, that's all, like, to return to these characters, that to me Molly Shannon also was included in this argument, but I think Anna Gasteyer also had the musical element to add on to all of it all. So yeah, I think it's just she was such a staple that we forget how good she actually was. And she came in and reminded us, like, don't ever underestimate me again. And
yeah, I agree. On a couple years ago, we did our cast rankings where we had our audience give us the best cast members of all time. We did a whole series. It's in the archives on YouTube and on Apple Podcast, Spotify. But Anna was ranked at 32. I think if we do this again now, she's moving up that list a lot. So, Kirstin, who are the MVPs for you from the special?
Eddie Murphy for sure, because I really enjoy the version of him we got on this. That reminded me of when I was a kid and I would watch him in all his movies, and just how easy comedy came to him. Andy Samberg really stands out for all of his talents, and Anna for sure, but also just women. I think women after a certain age become somewhat invisible, and I think the invisibility cloak was off a lot of them this night, and people all over got to see that they were remiss in forgetting their talents or for not seeing them, because they've been there the whole time, and the opportunity to remind people of their talents is great. They didn't go anywhere. I'm just glad that people saw them again.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this was a night for SNL to celebrate its stars. So I know we talked about who isn't there or who wasn't there, but out of the greatest cast members of all time that were there, and I'll go through the top 10 cast members of all time as ranked by you guys a couple years ago. So Kenan Thompson, a huge star from the special. Dana Carvey wasn't there. Cecily Strong, a huge star from the special. Amy Poehler, all over the special. Kate McKinnon had her sketch and also was in the musical. Kristen Wiig all over the special. Eddie Murphy all over the special. Will Ferrell all over the special. Obviously, Phil and Bill weren't there. But when we're talking about, everyone has different top tens, but just as far as the general consensus rankings that we did, they really focused on the stars from the history of the show, and we're going to play a lot of their hits. So for me, those were all the MVPs that absolutely carried the show, that made it so much fun. I also want to shout out Eddie Murphy, because if you would have told me 10 years ago that 10 years from now you would be talking about the guy who came out at the 40th and absolutely was a dud because he just came out after Chris Rock introduced him and hyped him up and said, thanks for having me, and walked out, and everyone was disappointed, and now he's in Black Jeopardy, he's in Scared Straight, he's running the show, he's having fun, he's hosted the show since then. Like one of the stars of the show that made the show keep going. To me, like he absolutely stole the show multiple times during the night. So so exciting that we're living this timeline where Eddie is a big part of Saturday Night Live again. So we're gonna have so much more coverage of the special coming up throughout the week. We will have our By the Numbers show on Thursday night. So typically we're live on Wednesdays. We're gonna give Mike one extra day with the stats. So I will be there with Mike to talk about the screen time, and we'll go through the show analytically on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. We still have all of the interviews to release. So we're going to put together and package all the interviews that we did from the red carpet. We spoke to so many of your favorite cast members. Got to talk to Tom Hanks, Alec Baldwin, a lot of like really big hosts as well. So I can't wait to share those with you. I tried to ask as many fun questions as possible. So I really hope you enjoy those, and that'll be released early next week as we work to package those together, and hope you enjoy them. But we did just get a major announcement today about the future of Saturday Night Live. Hard to believe it. We're talking about SNL after the 50th special, since we've been looking forward to this moment for so long, that on March 1st, SNL will return with host Shane Gillis and musical guest Tate McRae, and then we'll come back the following week with Lady Gaga doing double duty. So let's just talk for a second about this next episode of Saturday Night Live. Shane Gillis hosted the show last season. We did cover his history with the show, which is one of the more unique experiences anyone has ever had with the show, and what his return was like when he hosted. And, obviously the show felt like he did a great job, and they're having him back again this year, Rich. So I'd love to know if you have any initial expectations for Gillis returning to the show on March 1st.
Well, we talked last time about the whole history, and putting that aside, I thought he was one of the weaker hosts, one of the weaker stand-ups hosting. So I will be interested to see how he does. Was it first night jitters? Was it freshman jitters? And he rises to the occasion. Not super excited about it, but I'd love to be pleasantly surprised.
Amanda, what about you? Any expectations for Gillis returning to the show on March 1st?
No.
Okay. Give me something.
I didn't watch it last time. My hopes are I'm probably not gonna watch it this time.
Okay.
I don't know that man, and I'm sorry, I don't know who he is. I could not pick him up in a lineup. Like, I get it. I watch it for the microwave nachos, Britney Spears, Tate McRae. I will absolutely watch her performance. I love her.
Okay, that's fine. That's totally fine. Kirstin, what about you? Do you have a take on Shane Gillis returning to the show?
I was a little confused by it. I didn't dislike his first one, but it seems very soon to bring him back, given what we clearly know is a very, very wide talent pool. There are so many people, even on this show, that we've talked about that could come and host. So it seems strange. I've got to imagine there's a strategy there, but it seems strange. The season 50 outside of the special has been extremely white. The majority of music and hosts have been Caucasian, and I see someone like Shane Gillis, and I think that really could have gone to someone else, and we could have shown some more representation. So I'm confused by that one. Lady Gaga, that's a bit of a no-brainer. I mean, she feels like a really strong performer for the 50th. But Shane, I'm confused by.
I mean, I have thoughts about Gaga. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, well, we're sure going to talk about that as we get a little bit closer to Lady Gaga doing double duty for the second time. She previously did it in season 39, but
and that problematic man, she deserves a redo.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that it was crazy. But yes, as far as Shane Gillis is concerned, I just thought it was really interesting that in every anniversary special going back to the 15th, they've always done something to promote the show and the next show that's coming up. And they didn't do anything with Shane Gillis in this special. And I believe that was probably on purpose because of, his history with Saturday Night Live. Now, I'm hopeful for the episode. I totally agree with all your sentiments about this. And, that there's a lot of other people I would have rather seen. But given that he is hosting, I'm actually a little bit hopeful for this, because what I didn't like about his last episode was I felt like he was sort of carrying an anchor behind him of, his comments and him getting fired from the show. And I felt like that was sort of weighing down the experience of him being there, which is like, I have to address this, but also I'm going to sort of, make it light of it. And people were asking about it all week. And I feel like the whole conversation was about that. I do wonder if now that he's been through the experience and hosted that first time and he's back there and gets it, that he could sort of be himself, because I do find him funny in terms of some of the other stand-up that I've seen from him. So my hope is at least that this time he'll be able to just be more himself, and maybe we'll be able to judge him on that. So looking forward to covering this in full, obviously. But like I said, we still have more celebrating to do for the 50th, and I'm very excited to be doing that all week long here on the podcast. So what is coming up. We will be live here next on Thursday night. Rich Tackenberg, thank you so much for joining us. This was a blast. I was looking forward to this for 5 years, getting to talk to you about the special. So I'm so happy that I did it tonight. Thanks for joining us.
Same. Love that we got to do this. It was so wonderful.
Yeah. And Amanda, so great to see you, and great to get to talk to you about the show. So anything you would like to plug to the listeners?
No, go follow me on Instagram, please. Thank you. I love you. Here's to another 50 years. I'll be talking to you when I'm, 147. I'm not that old. I just look really good.
Okay. Kirstin, thank you so much for coming to us. I know you were supposed to be back at home, but you're coming to us from a hotel tonight. So I really appreciate you joining us here. Anything you would like to plug to listeners?
Well, first, wouldn't miss this for the world. the 50th. Yes, we've been talking about it for so long, and it was incredible. I would like to plug a show called Generation Woman. It's a storytelling event in the Toronto area. However, there are events throughout the United States as well. If you go to generationwomen.ca, that's where you can find information about Toronto, but you'll also find links to the shows in New York, Seattle, Jersey, DC, etc. So please check that out and support female voices. And thank you once again for having me on. It was great.
Of course. I really want to give a big shout out to Bill Kenny and Sammy Kay and Victoria Franzo, who held it down on the Hot Take Show, did 2.5 hours after the 3.5 hour special, talking about every single segment from the show. So if you haven't gone back and checked that out, go check it out. Really appreciate them joining us.
2.5 hours?
Yes, they crushed it. Just so much content.
I love y'all. I would be like, I'm going to bed.
Well, don't discourage people who enjoy getting to watch the Hot Take Show.
I love it. I would say I stay up until 4 a.m. talking to you, please.
Yeah. But yeah, they did a great job on the Hot Take Show. I'm also really excited to talk about my experience in New York with the listeners. I didn't really want to do that on this show because I really wanted to make tonight about the 50th and the Roundtable and getting to do all of that. But I definitely will give some anecdotes and talk about, like I said, the interviews, being at the concert, on the show on Thursday when I'm with Mike. I will also do that throughout the conversation that James and I when we release the interviews. And I'm also going to try and do something for our patrons where I will record something later in the week with whichever sketch the patrons want me to talk about, and also talk about my experience as well. So patreon.com/the SNL Network to get all of that extra content that we have here at the Saturday Night Network. I want to shout out to our social media team and our producers behind the scenes who just destroyed on social media this week. Like, I could not ask for a better team and family behind the scenes here, that they just were posting anything you could possibly want to see about the 50th weekend. They had it up on our social media and we're just on their game. And I told them you should be proud of everything that you guys did this weekend on socials. This will follow you guys for the rest of your life, your accomplishments that you did this weekend. So seriously, great job. If you're missing it, go follow us at the SNL Network on any social platform to see all of the amazing content our team is putting up over there. You can subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And if you're liking our content, give us a thumbs up, write a comment, let us know how you thought about the special and all of our thoughts that we had here tonight. And I also want to thank latenighter.com for being our presenting partner for the show and all of the amazing articles they have up this weekend about the 50th and late night television. So appreciate you, Rich and Amanda and Kirstin, for joining me here on the Roundtable tonight, and everyone in the chat for hanging out with us on this Tuesday night. We will be back on Thursday for By the Numbers. My name is Jon Schneider from the Saturday Night Network, and we will see you next time, everybody. Have a good one.